Hey guys, welcome back to Honey in the Rock. I'm Sophie and this is Elijah.
Hello, everybody.
He's like my twin flame, and so I'm really excited for you guys to hear from him because he's actually one of my best friends. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
Aw, that was sweet. Thanks.
I try. Um, so Elijah and I worked together this summer and we just had a lot of fun. He made me laugh and I was probably funny too, like knowing me. So just kidding. Um, but Elijah was very intentional in the way he serves and speaks. He's a great listener, and so um, the Lord is just evident in his life and in his walk. And so I'm excited for you guys to hear his story. Um, I was trying to think of a story to tell them about us so they can like see our relationship because we're just like funny together. We're like everyone I told about you, I'm like he's like my big brother. Like you feel like you're just like a brother to me. Um, but all of our stories are just like so random that I couldn't really think of one. But I don't know how we decided we were twins in the first place.
I don't,
Because you
I
guys
don't
are
remember
talking
either.
like we don't actually look alike.
I don't remember either. I feel like it kind of just happened
It just
during, I feel like it was during our first, like our training week
it
or
was early
something.
on. So he was just like a brother to me and he looked out for me at camp and I appreciated him. And now we're real life friends, so that's good.
Yeah, that is great.
Elijah, where are you from? What do you do as your job?
I'm originally from Orlando, Florida. My family lives in Western North Carolina now. I live in Eastern North Carolina in Raleigh. I am a site coordinator at the YMCA in Raleigh, and there I just oversee the youth program after school, specifically. So I get like roughly 100 to 120 kids a day that come there after school, and I have my counselors do activities with them and stuff.
Ego. You're just a little director. It's like a
Yeah.
big job. Well, good work. That takes a lot of patience.
Uh, you know, we have our days.
So the fruit of the spirit comes out in that one.
Yeah. But it has fun moments and it has not so fun
Yeah,
moments.
I'm sure. Okay, sweet. Well, do you want to share your testimony?
Yeah, let's
You
do
can
it.
start wherever.
All right. Well, I guess to start, I grew up in a household where my family, like before I was born, they were Catholic, went to the Catholic church. My grandpa has been in the Catholic church pretty much his whole life. So like the Baptist church and like the nature of the Baptist church was not really like a part of their lives. It was more of like the uh, Catholic side of things, where it was kind of checklist almost. Like they had to get a certain amount of things done in a certain way. Um, and yeah, I mean, I never got to experience that, but that's kind of what their upbringing was. And so then when I was born, we moved from Orlando, Florida to Western North Carolina, and I went to this small school where one of my best friends was the local preacher's son. And so I started getting picked up going to school with them. He would drop us both off at school, and then I'd go stay the night at their house. And then at some point there, my grandma started going to their church. Um, and once she started going to their church, she started picking me up on Sundays and taking me to church. Uh, she was working in the nursery room. She would take me in there with her, listen to service and stuff like that. So I got integrated into that at a pretty young age, going to like our VBS and our kids' church. And actually, I didn't go to kids' church because I didn't want to be separated from my grandmother. So I threw a fit before I went to kids' church. But eventually we got there. And it was like second grade or so, and then we moved back to Florida. And like I had still moving to Florida was continuing. My mom had started going to church with us at this point, and so me, my mom, and my little brother Josh, we moved to Florida, and started going to a church with my aunt and uncle and my cousins down there, and so we just same thing, continue going there. Um, Never really meant much to me besides the fact that like Sunday I got to go hang out in the kids' room, play with
Yeah.
Legos, and then sing a fun song and hear a little story about the Bible.
Right.
And so like through elementary school, that's kind of how it was. I was very quiet and reserved in elementary school, so like I didn't really speak out in those moments, ask questions, wasn't
Yeah.
really my thing. Um, but then I got into middle school. At the end of sixth grade, I we had another hurricane come through in Orlando, and that caused us to move back to North Carolina again. So the Hurricanes are 2-0 against my family. Um, but um, once we got to North Carolina, I had always loved basketball, played basketball in the rec league, and uh, never had really tried out for a team. I was always too scared, just being like a quieter guy. I didn't, most of the guys were a lot more loud and just more physical than me. I was kind of soft and like soft spoken. So when we got to North Carolina, my seventh grade year, I tried out for the basketball team, and that I made the team after like 3 weeks of being at the school.
Good
And
job.
thanks, I appreciate it. And that pretty much like set the rest of like the next few years up for me because as soon as I started playing basketball at this school, the guys that I was around 24/7, I loved them to death, but they were not the people that I needed to be surrounding myself with. I was I only had value in like my performance on the court, my social status. Um, Going from Orlando to a small town
Yeah.
and making the basketball team, it was pretty easy for me to immediately be like, okay, they don't know that I was a quiet kid, so we're gonna take hold of this like popularity thing.
Yeah.
And so through seventh grade, like just was playing basketball, being popular, um, looking for all of my happiness in all of the things of school and friendships and basketball. And at that point, I was going back to the church that we had originally started going to. My grandma, and grandpa at that point were both going. My grandpa started counting the money there, and my grandma was continuing serving in the nursery and stuff like that. And so we got to go back there. And I never wanted to go to the youth group. Like I was finally at the youth group age, but my mom would like have to force me to go to the youth group. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not, I don't have fun doing this. Every time I'd go, I'd have fun, but it would take me getting over the hump of actually showing up
Right.
uh, to enjoy it. And so um, through that seventh grade year, it was kind of like spotty, hit or miss, whether or not I would even go to church, more or
Right.
less the youth group. And finally, my mom uh, signed me up for our church camp that summer, and it was like that spring of that year, and I was so nervous. Like immediately upon hearing the fact that I was going, I was like, "Ain't no way!" And so me and my cousin Riley, we got signed up together, and we like spent the whole summer together, and then like boom, we're getting ready for this trip, and I'm literally like on the verge of throwing up. Like my mom had to go to the youth pastor Adrian, and tell him like, hey, he's
Sorry.
freaking out. He's like super anxious, super nervous. I'd always struggled with anxiety in some way, shape, or form growing up, and so um, that moment of like being 6 hours away from my mom for a week
Yeah.
and her being like the main person that I've always sought like comfort and authority in was just beyond me. Uh,
Right.
and so that week we went and it was like the craziest, most fun week ever. Like, I mean, we had high schoolers in our youth group that brought crabs from the beach into the barracks and put them
Why
in
not?
camping bags. But we also had like really good intentional church group time, and Um, just got to hear the word preached very well.
Yeah.
And it was about halfway through that week. It was either that Wednesday or that Thursday. The theme that year, if I'm not mistaken, was about putting your yes on the table in some way, shape, or form. Um, it wasn't anything that was specifically said, but it was just like the buildup of the week and hearing all of this and being in that community, and forming the friendships that I did within the youth group at that time. But that Wednesday or Thursday, we had like an altar call, and I just like bawled my eyes out and went up at the same time as my cousin. Neither of us knew it until like
Oh.
fact, but like we both went up, we're down there sobbing, and our preacher's son Trent, who I mentioned earlier, he came up, prayed with me, um, and then after the worship service, we went to our church group time, and me, him, Adrian, our youth pastor, and Dave, our old worship pastor, sat out on the porch and like talked about like what had led me to this decision, like finally acknowledging my faith and uh I guess kind of confirming for all of us that like that was what it was. Like it was the fact that I was giving my life to Christ officially and acknowledging that I had been kind of walking a little wonky life for some time. And although I was in church, people that were at church would see a very different me if they saw me at school, kind of thing. So, yeah, so that week I got saved. That was 2018, July of 2018. And then, like, 3 weeks after that, me and my cousin Riley, we got baptized at the same time. He didn't tell anyone. Like, none of us knew that he was getting baptized. Him and the show,
Surprise.
and we're both getting baptized. And I was like, what the heck? This is crazy. So we both got baptized in a creek, and Trent got to baptize me.
Sweet.
Trent and Adrian both baptized me, and that was really cool. But like all good camp stories, there was a camp high, and that camp high fizzled as soon as the school year started back up, and as soon as basketball season started back up.
Yeah.
And that kind of walked me down a very distant like season of my life,
Mm.
from the beginning of eighth grade to about the midway or end point of 10th grade. It was just basketball, girls, and like where my popularity was at.
Mm.
And through that time, I lived in North Carolina and Alabama and kind of was just um, literally just playing basketball. Like that's all that mattered to me. That's all I cared about. And finally, I had gotten knee surgery because I had gotten a pretty bad injury. That took some time off from how long I was able to play. Like couldn't do travel ball, couldn't do high school workouts. Um, and then as soon as I came back from the injury my freshman year, I played like 6 games and then got a concussion. So at this point, I'm like, what the heck's going on? What's the point in me like even showing up and doing all this stuff at school if I'm not allowed, like if I can't play basketball? And so I was fighting with where my purpose stood in all things. Like I genuinely did not feel any purpose in going to school. Didn't see the point in just really showing up for anything if I couldn't play basketball. Like my main goal was to play college basketball, and that was looking less and less likely for me
Right.
as I continued to get hurt. And so 10th grade year, I went through like a really like tough battle with anxiety and depression. Like it got to the point where I'd go out in public and it would be like I'd be having like stomach aches and like experiencing like through my full body like almost sickness of the
Right.
fact that I'm out in public and and just like for a portion of time since COVID had hit at that time, I didn't have to be at school, and so there were times where I would go stay at my grandparents' cabin for like days or a
Right.
week at a time just so that I wouldn't have to be in public or
Mhm.
be out and about and be at my house and stuff. And I pretty much fell off the face of the earth for a good like 4 or 5 months from all my friends. Stopped using social media and just did not go to school. I did a majority of the portion online. So um, then that summer of 2021, I went to that same church camp. My mom signed me up for it. I can't remember if I really wanted to go. I don't think I did, but she did sign me up for it. Um, and that week it was uh, the theme was called, and it was the guy that preached ended up being one of my professors freshman year of college.
Oh, that's cool.
um, who he's the class he did was vocation and calling at Southeastern.
Mm.
And in 2021, he preached on being called and like what that looks like. And at that point, I was like, I don't see the purpose in my life. Like, what am I doing? Um, I wasn't necessarily like questioning whether or not like to harm myself, but like more of I have nothing to go to school for. I have nothing to um, like be around for. Like I'm kind of just here
Like,
right now.
what's the point? Yeah.
And so that week he preached on that, and it was like it hit me kind of during the week, but it was until after I left and started reflecting on the material from the week is when I realized like, okay, like I've kind of been going about it all wrong. Um, like I need to go back to the Lord and allow Him to give me that purpose and not seek it in an orange ball and a
Right.
rim. Uh,
Right.
and so at that point, literally like 2 days after that camp, I was on the camp high. I was ready to like start getting into stuff. And that we got back that Saturday, and that Sunday I got a phone call that somebody on my van had COVID. And it was 2021, so everyone starts freaking out.
Right.
And then like the next day I woke up and like couldn't move. Like I was so sick and like could not do anything. I was in a hospital for like one of the nights with like a 210 heart rate. It was crazy. And they I was quarantined for like 3 weeks, and that immediately like drove me straight back into the depression and anxiety because I
Yeah.
was isolated after this time of community and
Yep.
realizing kind of the next steps I wanted to take, but I couldn't take them.
Right.
And so uh towards the end of my quarantine, I my mom finally let me like out of the house, and I went to take the trash to the dump. And I was driving, listening to worship music, and then just started like uncontrollably just crying my eyes out, and had to pull over on the side of a back road
Right.
because I couldn't see because I was crying so bad. And uh, at this point, I was like, I need to call somebody. I need to call somebody. So I called my mentor from high school. His name's Alex. I called him and was like, dude, I have to do something. Like the Lord's calling me to something bigger than what I've been doing, a
Yeah.
life that is more glorifying to Him, and I need to make that change. And so he was like, let's do it. Like, I'll get you into, he was our children's pastor. He is our children's pastor at my home church. And so he was like, you can serve in children's, we can get you plugged into different areas, and we can discern what this call will look like. And so me and him met, I want to say once a week or once every other week, and read through a book called, I think, Discerning Your Call to Ministry. And through that, just kind of discerned it down to pastoral ministry. And I started getting the opportunity to preach and to lead groups in the children's ministry. And then that next summer of 2022, I worked as an intern for the church and started preaching more consistently, um, becoming more of like a hands-on volunteer
Yeah.
and working on staff and stuff like that. And so that went on the summer of 2022. And then through my senior year of 2022, 2023 school year, I did all that.
Yeah.
And I was visiting schools and just could not find a school that I liked. I visited Liberty, Southeastern University, I knew about Montreat College in Western North Carolina, and I was like, none of these are interesting. Like, I don't know
Right.
where I'm gonna go to school. It was like 2 weeks before graduation, and my pastor told me to go visit Southeastern uh, Baptist Theological Seminary in Wake Forest, North Carolina. And so I did that. And after I went there, it was like a hard stamped yes. Like I was like, this is easily the school for me. And so I spent the last 2 years there. And through the last 2 years, like I've learned a lot about the Bible, but also like for me personally, it took a toll on a lot of my mental um, side of things. The work is difficult, and like I knew it going into it that it was going to be difficult, um, but I was like swamping myself in work, stretching myself thin socially, volunteering for too much, and just doing entirely too much.
Right.
And so, spring of my 2024 semester, I legit had to like leave in the middle of the semester. Like, I wasn't sleeping at night but for like maybe an hour. Um, I wasn't on any medication at that time, wasn't like talking to anybody. Um, my friends didn't even know that I was feeling this way. Like, I was just kind of doing it. And finally, there was one day that I woke up to go to class. And I was like, I'm driving home. Like, I need a second. And so I drove home, talked to my mom that weekend. And I was like, I need to leave. Like, I'm done. And so I went back that Monday and pretty much like told my roommates, like, I gotta leave. Like, I gotta get help. Um, I'm not in a place where I can um, do school, where
Right.
I can do any of this without seeking help and like getting the
Yeah.
medication, getting the therapy and all that.
Yeah.
And so I was able to come back home. Um, I worked as an intern that summer again, and this is where I learned about Fuge camps. And I was supposed to work a completely separate camp
Mhm.
this past summer, summer 24. I was supposed to work at Fort Caswell on the Beauty Tell staff, and I didn't end up doing it because of the way I was feeling mentally. And then I met a friend, Grace, that worked at Ridgecrest Fuge, and she introduced me to that. I got to help with MFuge as a site contact and learned all about Fuge through that, and then worked this past summer as a Fuge staffer. And kind of all the dominoes fell. Like looking back, all the dominoes definitely fell into place for the right reasons, and um, the Lord was definitely very good to me and all of
Yeah.
that. And so, yeah, I mean, that really leads us up to where we are now.
Yeah.
I transferred out of Southeastern now, though. I'm going to Wake Tech to pursue a degree in kinesiology and sports science, and I'll transfer to NC State soon. So, no longer doing full time ministry, but ministry in a way is happening.
You're
But yeah,
still pouring into people in that way. Um, I think your story is really sweet because it's like the Lord continuing to pursue you even when you didn't want to be pursued.
yeah,
Then when you tried to find it in other people, and then when you tried to find it in yourself. And he
yeah,
kept coming back to being like, no, like, dude, you can't do this by yourself.
yeah,
Um, even from like trying to distance yourself from the Lord and then like finding like letting basketball become an idol
yeah,
or popularity or girls become an idol of like, okay, well, if I can find satisfaction in this place or this place or this place, then I'm gonna like do whatever the world wants me to because this feels good in the moment. But then like you learning that like it just left it more empty than it did in the first place. Um, and then like surrendering that to the Lord and but then it's still not being perfect. And I think that's what's cool is because so often we like, okay, I follow Jesus now, everything's perfect and easy, and I don't struggle with anything. But it's like that's not reality.
no,
And so often it's like, okay, well, sure, like, you saw that chasing like basketball or popularity or girls wasn't working, but then it wasn't just like a okay, now that's done. I've stopped that. Now here I am. It was like a process of like surrendering that to the Lord and then walking in the light of who He called us to be.
yeah,
Um, and then because like there's always something next to chase. if that's like where we're finding our satisfaction, like there's just going to be the next thing and the
Yes.
next thing. And that's just like a cycle that's exhausting and leaves us empty and dry and tired of just like, I cannot keep striving. Um, and I think what is really like, well, I think I'm proud of you for is, well, I don't think I know. I think I'm proud of you. I'm proud that it's like, I feel like so often for guys, it's harder to say, like, this is what I struggle with, but you're really good at that. Like, your honesty, I think, is really cool. Um, and it just shows that you really have been transformed by the blood of Christ because you're willing to be honest about what's hard in life and what you feel. And because it brings you closer to Jesus, but it's also like how often so many of us are struggling, but we don't want to say something because we want to pretend like we have it all together. And like even this summer, like you would get mad about something and you will like handle it with such maturity of like, okay, this is making me mad and I'm going to walk away and I'm going to handle it this way. Or today was really hard because of this. Or this happened in my family and this was hard. But then you kept like, you just like handled it with maturity and honesty. And I think that's something that we all can learn from of like how often I try to pretend like nothing's actually going on because I want to pretend like I have it all together. Or I want to pretend like my family has it all together when it's like that is anxiety producing, trying
Yeah.
to pretend. Um, so what now does it look like for you um to like almost like set yourself up for success with your like mental state of like leaning on the Lord in that way? Because it's like, okay, this is something you struggled with before Christ and something you struggled with after Christ or with
Yeah.
Christ. And so what does that look like to like put yourself in a position where you're not getting beat up?
Yeah, I think now it's more of just being as transparent as possible with the people that I'm closest with. I've just learned that there's no reason to not be as transparent as possible. And so, kind of just praying uh, for the conviction to be as honest and open with whether it's my mentor or my closer friends.
Yeah.
And like you said, like I've talked to y'all all summer. Anytime I was frustrated, like I just had to get it out and then I can deal with it the way I need to. But if I
Yeah.
don't talk about it, it's immediately that much harder to deal with.
Yep.
That was like at the beginning of summer, it was like week 2 of camp. Well, it was training week bleeding into week 2. I had some issues with my dad that I don't speak with currently, and like that week was hard. But just being able to feel as comfortable as I did with all of you that I talked to about it, like just being able to talk to y'all, get it out there, made it that much easier for me to turn around and serve my students well, but also deal with this on the side.
Right.
And so I think transparency is like the one main thing that I've used to um, get past all that. Because, like you said, guys aren't typically ones to share things of that nature. And I think that's something I took on from a very young age and had to kind of break the habit of.
Yeah. I think that was honestly like really cool because it was like you were willing, like we hadn't known each other for that long, like the group in general, and you were willing to share the things that were hard about your situation with your dad. And I think it was just like it set us a lot, it set me up for like honestly success in the sense of like, okay, I don't need to be ashamed of what's going on in my head or in my life that I need help with. And like it was just like one person needed to take the first step to be vulnerable. And you were willing to do that in a humble way of like, hey, this is what's hard. And this situation with my dad is not ideal. And this is hard and this sucks, but here it is. And it was just like really cool. Like, whoa, that's what honesty can look like. And then like being honest with the Lord. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day and it was like, we have to also be honest with the Lord. Like I can be honest with people around me, but I need to be honest with him, and give it to him because he really is the one who can like we can listen, but he's the one who's in control. Which is just like a sweet thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I don't have to carry this on my own. Like invite our community in. Because if people love you, they want to be a part of the hard. Um, and then also like Jesus knows, but he also wants to hear
Yeah.
from us what's going on. And so I think your story is really sweet of just like the transformation of your life before really pursuing the Lord. of you maybe knew about him, but you weren't following him. And people that knew you then, like, don't even recognize you now. And I
Yeah.
think that's just really cool of just how the Lord can transform our stories of, like, he takes us all. We're all in this spiritual death and he brings us to life. And your story is a really good example of that. Just like, this was me before Jesus. And I was chasing and chasing and chasing all the wrong things. And this is me now. We're still broken, but you know where your identity stands and you know your purpose is, even on the hard days. And you're just willing to be honest and transparent. And so I think that's incredible. And the Lord is evident in the way you walk and live. And so it's a joy to be your friend and know your story and serve alongside of you, but also just like hear the hard things, because it makes the good things sweeter. So
Really
thanks for
great.
sharing.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate it.
Um, my they cannot hear this. Well, like they can't hear it, but it's like my microphone sounds like it's a waterfall. But when this uploads, they won't hear this, but it sounds like I'm in an ocean right now.
Yeah,
Can you hear it?
I can hear it a little bit, but it's not
It,
like
it
honestly,
literally sounds
no,
like I'm in an ocean.
I honestly thought it was my laptop, like
No,
was
it's me.
on top of my bed.
No, it's my computer. But like they can't hear it, but the whole time I'm like, I wonder if they can hear my waterfall that's going on in this background. Anyways, side note. Well, Elijah, thanks for coming on
Of
the
course.
podcast and sharing your story.
Thanks for having
And anytime. And thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you next week. Bye.